I think it's time to return back home.
Oh my God!
Debby believed she was helping the man she loved prepare for marriage. But Mido was preparing for something completely different. He was preparing for the day he would no longer need her. While Debby imagined a wedding, a shared home, and a future as husband and wife, Mido imagined acting classes, meetings with agents, and a new life in Hollywood. Every promise made Debby feel safer. Every delay gave Mido more time. And every dollar she spent pushed him closer to a future where she was no longer part of the picture. The real betrayal was not that Mido changed his mind about marriage. People change. Feelings disappear. Relationships fall apart every day. The betrayal was that he knew exactly what Debby believed. And he kept her believing it because her hope was useful. He did not need to marry her. He only needed Debby to believe that he eventually would. That belief kept her emotionally invested. It kept the financial support available. It kept the acting dream moving forward. And most importantly, it stopped Debby from asking the question that could have exposed everything much sooner. Did Mido truly love her? Or did he only love the doors she could open? Because the wedding was not being delayed, because Mido needed more time to become ready. It was being delayed because he needed more time to become independent, more time to improve his English, more time to meet professional agents, more time to make Hollywood feel possible, more time to create a life where losing Debby would no longer mean losing everything. Once you see the relationship through that lens, every promise sounds different. Every delay feels more calculated. And every conversation about marriage begins to look less like confusion and more like strategy. At first, Debby probably saw nothing wrong with Mido's acting ambitions. Wanting a career is not a red flag. Wanting to improve yourself, attend classes, and chase an opportunity can be admirable. A supportive partner should want the person they love to succeed. That was probably how Debby viewed the situation. She was not looking at acting classes as money disappearing from her account. She believed she was investing in their future. If Mido became more confident, found work, and developed a stable career, Debby believed their relationship would become stronger. She thought his success would eventually become their success. But Mido did not see the same investment. Debby believed she was helping her future husband become independent. Mido saw her as the person who could make his escape possible. The same payment meant two completely different things. To Debby, it represented commitment. To Mido, it represented access. To Debby, helping him move forward meant they were moving forward together. To Mido, moving forward meant getting far enough ahead that he could finally leave her behind. That was the first major contradiction. Mido wanted Debby to treat his dream like a shared responsibility, but he treated marriage like a private decision she had no right to question. He expected wife-level support without offering husband-level certainty. And that created a relationship where Debby carried almost all the risk while Mido collected nearly all the benefits. Then came the confession that changed everything. I never came to America because I was ready to marry Debby. I came because she believed in my Hollywood dream when no one else did. That statement raised an uncomfortable question. Did Mido appreciate Debby? Or did he only appreciate being believed in? Those are not the same thing. A person can become emotionally attached to the way someone makes them feel. They can love the attention. They can love the encouragement. They can love the confidence they receive when another person treats their dreams seriously. But loving what somebody gives you is not the same as loving that person. Mido loved feeling talented. He loved feeling important. He loved the idea that somebody in America saw potential in him. He loved hearing that his dream was possible. But did he love Debby when she was not helping him? That was the real test. Love should survive boundaries. It should survive disappointment. It should survive the moment one partner says, I cannot keep paying for this. But the moment Debby questioned the financial support, Mido's attitude changed. When she helped him, he was hopeful. When she asked questions, he became distant. When she offered another opportunity, he became affectionate. When she set a boundary, he accused her of standing in his way. That emotional switch revealed more than any direct confession could. People show their true priorities when access is removed. If Mido genuinely loved Debby, losing financial support would have created stress, but it should not have erased his concern for the relationship. He could have been disappointed and still respected her. He could have pursued acting independently while continuing to show commitment. But his affection seemed connected to what Debby provided. And access can look exactly like affection until somebody finally says no. That was why the promise of marriage became so important. Mido did not need to create one enormous lie. A huge lie could be exposed all at once. Smaller promises were easier to maintain. He could say he still wanted marriage but needed more time. He could blame stress. He could mention cultural differences. He could say he needed to become financially stable first. He could claim Debbie's questions were making him feel pressured. Then, whenever Debbie became suspicious, he could give her just enough reassurance to stop her from leaving. Not a wedding date. Not a serious plan. Just enough hope. That was how the relationship stayed alive. The manipulation did not always look aggressive. Sometimes it sounded gentle. Please be patient with me. I want the same future. This is not the right time. We just need to solve a few problems first. The problem was not that Mido asked for patience. The problem was that he asked for patience while already knowing the destination would never arrive. Debbie's hope became the fuel keeping the entire arrangement alive. A delayed wedding can feel reasonable when your partner claims he is preparing for a stable future. Paying for another class can feel responsible when you believe the career will support your future household. A vague promise can feel romantic when you trust the person making it. Mido did not need Debbie to believe him forever. He only needed her to believe him until another door opened. I let Debbie believe marriage was our future because I knew she would never support my acting career without that promise. That was not a misunderstanding. That was awareness. Mido understood why Debbie was helping him. She was not providing unlimited financial support with no expectations. She believed they were working toward marriage. If he had told her that marriage was never the goal, her decision would have changed. She may have stopped paying. She may have stopped contacting people. She may have stopped helping with acting plans. She may have stopped building her entire future around him. That was why the marriage promise became leverage. It kept Debbie close without requiring Mido to provide anything definite. A specific wedding date would have created accountability. Debbie could have measured progress. She could have recognized when plans were being broken. A vague future was much safer. Marriage stayed close enough to keep Debbie hopeful, but far enough away that Mido never had to follow through. And every delay came with a new excuse. First, he needed time to adjust. Then, he needed to improve his English. After that, he needed professional acting classes. Then, he needed to meet agents. Then, he needed to find work. Then, he needed financial stability. By the time one excuse expired, another one replaced it. But Debbie eventually noticed something important. Mido's acting plans were always specific. He could name the type of class he wanted. He could explain what kind of agent he needed. He could describe the roles he imagined playing. He could talk about where auditions might happen. But when Debbie asked about marriage, everything became vague. I need more time. We have problems. I feel pressured. We should not rush this. That difference told its own story. Mido had a detailed plan for Hollywood and no detailed plan for Debbie. He knew exactly what he wanted professionally. But whenever the conversation became personal, he suddenly claimed complete confusion. His acting opportunities were always urgent. Debbie's emotional needs could always wait. And that was when she finally understood something painful. Mido was not uncertain about his future. He was only uncertain about the part of his future involving her. She was planning our wedding while I was planning my move to Hollywood. That line captured the entire relationship. Debbie looked at wedding ideas while Mido researched acting schools. Debbie talked about where they might live. Mido talked about where auditions happened. Debbie imagined combining their lives. Mido imagined building a separate identity. They were both talking about the future, but they were not talking about the same future. That is one of the most dangerous relationship situations because two people can appear to be moving forward while secretly walking in opposite directions. Debbie interpreted Mido's ambition as evidence that he wanted to become a stronger partner. Mido viewed Debbie's support as the thing that could eventually free him from the relationship. To Debbie, success meant they could begin their life together. To Mido, success meant he would no longer need to pretend that life was ever his goal. Then came the confession that would hurt more than a normal breakup. I did not fall in love with Debbie. I fell in love with the opportunities she could give me. When relationships end, people often comfort themselves by believing the love was once real. Maybe the timing failed. Maybe they grew apart. Maybe pressure destroyed something genuine. But this confession took that comfort away. Debbie did not only have to question how the relationship ended. She had to question whether the relationship she remembered ever existed. Was Mido affectionate because he cared?
Or because he needed something?
Did he mention marriage because he pictured a future with her? Or because he knew that promise kept her invested? Did he make Debby feel loved? Or did he make her feel secure enough to continue supporting him? Those questions can damage a person long after a relationship ends. Debby would replay every conversation. She would search through every memory, trying to identify the exact moment affection became strategy. But there was another possibility. Mido may not have planned everything from the beginning. He may have genuinely enjoyed Debby's company. He may have felt affection for her. He may even have considered marriage during the early stages of their relationship. Then Hollywood started feeling more realistic. The acting classes became possible. The professional connections became valuable. And slowly, the career became more important than the relationship. That did not remove his responsibility. It only meant he may have become dishonest one choice at a time. He chose not to tell Debby when his priorities changed. He chose to continue accepting support. He chose to keep marriage in the conversation. He chose to protect his opportunity instead of protecting her trust. That was the moment ambition became deception. Mido could have admitted that his feelings had changed. He could have told Debby that his career had become the priority. He could have refused more financial help until they understood what was happening in their relationship. Instead, he allowed Debby to keep investing in a future he no longer wanted. And the pattern became clearest whenever Mido needed something. If Debby questioned another payment, marriage suddenly sounded possible again. If she considered leaving, Mido reminded her of their future. If she asked for a commitment, he accused her of creating pressure during an important moment in his career. Mention marriage. Delay marriage. Request support. Offer reassurance. Repeat. That cycle kept Debby emotionally busy. Instead of asking whether the relationship was meeting her needs, she became focused on proving that she was supportive enough. She started believing that if she stopped helping, she would be responsible for destroying Mido's dream. And that created guilt. Mido could tell her, "You are the only person who believes in me." On the surface, that sounded emotional, but it also created pressure. If Debby stopped paying, she was not simply protecting her finances. She became the woman who gave up on him. If she asked about marriage, she was not requesting clarity. She became the person standing between Mido and success. If she pointed out contradictions, she became negative, impatient, or controlling. That shifted the conversation away from Mido's promises and toward Debby's behavior. Instead of asking why he kept delaying marriage, they argued about whether she believed in his talent. Instead of discussing his responsibility, they discussed her patience. Instead of explaining what he wanted, Mido presented himself as the victim of her expectations. But boundaries are not betrayal. Debby had every right to say she would not continue financing a career while the relationship remained undefined. She had every right to stop contacting agents. She had every right to ask whether she was supporting a future husband or sponsoring a person who planned to disappear once he became successful. Then the entire relationship reached its breaking point. The moment she stopped supporting my acting career, I stopped pretending the relationship mattered. That confession exposed the real foundation. If Mido's affection disappeared when Debby stopped paying, then she was not losing a loving partner. She was removing the benefit that kept the performance alive. Some viewers would immediately blame Debby for ignoring the warning signs. They would say she should have noticed how differently Mido discussed acting and marriage. His career answers were detailed. His relationship answers were vague. From the outside, the pattern looked obvious. But another section of the audience would defend her. Trusting your partner is not a character flaw. Debby may have noticed the contradictions, but interpreted them through love. She may have believed Mido was scared, overwhelmed, or struggling to adjust. Many viewers would probably debate whether Mido had been a calculated user from the beginning or whether he was a selfish dreamer who gradually became dishonest. That difference matters. A calculated user begins with a plan. A selfish dreamer may begin with genuine feelings, but eventually decide those feelings matter less than the opportunity. Either version causes damage. But the emotional meaning is different. If Mido planned everything, Debby was a target. If his motives changed, Debby became collateral damage. Even if Mido did not plan everything from the start, he eventually understood that Debby's belief in marriage was keeping the support alive. Once he understood that continuing the promise became a choice. Debby's strongest confrontation did not need screaming.
She only needed to list the pattern.
Mido spoke warmly about marriage whenever she considered leaving. He asked for help after offering emotional reassurance. His acting plans became more detailed as his relationship answers became more vague. Whenever she asked for commitment, he accused her of interfering with his future. Mido tried to defend himself. He said Debby had offered the money willingly. He said his acting dream should not be treated like a crime. He said marriage could not be forced. Technically, those arguments sounded reasonable. Debby did offer support willingly. Wanting an acting career was not a crime. Nobody should be forced into marriage. But those answers avoided the real issue. Debby's willingness was based on what she believed the relationship meant. She believed she was supporting a shared future. If Mido already knew that future did not exist, then she was making sacrifices without knowing the truth. I was not forcing you to marry me. I was asking you to stop using marriage to keep me here. That was the line he could not answer. The issue was never whether Mido owed Debby a wedding. Nobody owes another person marriage. The issue was whether he owed her honesty before accepting more sacrifice. And he did. Mido explained that nobody else believed in him. He said he feared returning home without achieving anything. He claimed that one acting opportunity could completely change his life. Those fears were understandable. But understandable behavior is not always acceptable behavior. Desperation can explain why someone lies. It does not make the lie harmless. Ambition can explain selfishness. It does not erase the person who gets hurt. Mido may have convinced himself that Debby also benefited because she enjoyed the relationship. He could tell himself that she wanted companionship, that she chose to help, and that nothing was guaranteed. But Debby never believed she was participating in a temporary arrangement. She believed she was moving toward marriage. Then she asked the one question that destroyed every excuse. If Hollywood had never become possible, would you still have married me? No agents. No acting classes. No American connections. No dream of fame. Just Debby. Would Mido still choose her? He hesitated. And the hesitation became the answer. The question separated Debby from everything surrounding her. It forced Mido to imagine a future where she was the only reward. I do not know what would have happened, he finally said. But Debby understood. He knew. He simply could not say it without confirming her worst fear. For the first time, Debby stopped waiting for honesty. She accepted what his silence had already confessed. That was when the balance of power changed. Debby did not need revenge. She did not need to attack his dream. She only needed to remove herself from it. No more class payments. No more agent introductions. No more travel money. No more wedding conversations without action. No more emotional support exchanged for temporary affection. Mido would have to build his career without using Debby's future as collateral. He accused her of abandoning him. So, after everything, you're giving up on me? But Debby finally saw the trap inside that question. She was not giving up on him. She was refusing to keep sacrificing herself for a future that had never included her. I am not abandoning your dream. I am removing myself from a dream that never had a place for me. That was not cruelty. That was clarity. Mido wanted independence, but he wanted Debby to finance the path toward it. He wanted freedom from commitment while keeping every benefit of commitment. He wanted Debby to behave like a wife while refusing to decide whether she would ever become one. Once Debby stopped participating, Mido faced the real cost of his choices. The acting classes became harder to afford. The agent meetings became more difficult to arrange. Housing and transportation became uncertain. Hollywood suddenly felt far less welcoming than it had when Debby was handling every obstacle. And that was the irony. Mido had treated Debby like a temporary bridge. But after destroying her trust, he realized he had never actually reached the other side.